Can we make a knife out of it? Let's go find out.
We need to forge this down to a usable test thickness, somewhere between like a little over 3/16, even though we end up hitting a little bit on the control, about a 1/4 inch, but it's not that big a deal. We're going to stick this in our garbage can full of clay litter and anneal it. This is my standard snap test here, where we're getting the width of each coupon down to about 1 inch, and ideally you want to get the thickness of it down to, you know, the finished thickness of whatever you're making out of it. So if you're making knives out of this, you need to get it down to that finished thickness that you want your knife to be, so then you can really test the tensile strength of the piece at thickness. Next, we're going to stamp the water quench with a W and the oil quench with an O. Yes, I know we did quench these a little hot, but I need to remind you, this series is not about getting the perfect quench and temper. This is a series about, can you harden it, and at what medium should you be hardening it in. Now, some of you might be asking, why are we doing a control every time if it's just supposed to bend? Well, if it doesn't bend and like it snaps like the ball bearing one did, then you either did something wrong or the steel is an air hardening steel. Alright, here we go. This is the water. What do you think will happen? Bend, shatter, or snap? Let me know in the comments. I bet you guys didn't think that was going to happen. I know I wasn't expecting that to happen, that's for sure. Alright, here we go. Once again, what do you think? This is the oil. Bend, shatter, or snap? Let me know in the comments. I had a feeling this one was going to be tough based upon the water quench, but I wasn't necessarily expecting it. Okay, into the oven at 400 for 2 hours, and then we're back at the vise to try and snap these again. All right, here we go. Leave in the comments. Bend, shatter, snap, or nothing. Post temper. Yeah. If you're as surprised as I was, you're going to hear me huffing and puffing here pretty soon if you aren't already. Time to break out the big guns. Alright, you know the drill by now. Bend, shatter, snap, or nothing. Let's hear it. I wasn't necessarily surprised, but it did surprise me a little bit that it did this way.
Mystery steel. Before we get to the results, I'm going to tell you exactly what this stuff is. I don't know the alloy or composition of it, But where it comes from, this is a bracket or a plate that was used that had about 16 to 18 inch bolts that ran through it, that ran all the way through the building wall on a grain cribbage for storing grain. And this was built in the late 19th, early 20th century here in Pomeroy, Washington. Let's go over our results. So we have our control here, and this did everything that we knew it was going to do. And it bent nicely. Was a little hard to hammer over because it was so thick, but it worked out. The control did exactly what we thought. The initial snap, if we look at it in the water, it did shatter on this corner, or however you're looking at it here. There is a line there, and you turn it over and you can trace that down a little bit. So it was hard enough to actually shatter. It was super hard. It took a lot to break this. The grain structure is pretty tight, not silky smooth, but it's right there. Like a temper, and bam, we're golden. And the oil did break. Well, it didn't really break. It bent and then kind of tore. It is hard. It's just not as hard. It is harder than our control, right? It had much more durability to stay straight than our control did. It did get hard. It just didn't want to snap or break until we got it, past that point of no return, to where it is like, I'm done. So then what we did is we put it in the tempering oven at 400 for 2 hours, thinking I'll be able to get this thing snapped so we can see the grain structure. But no, nope. The water, I mean, it didn't even bend. Didn't even bend. Yeah, that was a surprise. You got yourself a tough steel right there. And as we saw in the first one before temper, it was hardened, and the temper helped a lot. I mean, I couldn't get it to go any farther. I had to go to the 6 pound. Now we could have got this all the way over and probably snapped it and what you'd probably see is a much finer grain structure in there. And I'm looking at this, and I'm actually pleased with both. The oil and the water. Very pleased. So, yes. Is it knife steel? Absolutely. Is it your first option? No. What might it be? I actually think it's a crucible steel. This was a poured steel. I think these were all poured into molds. And yeah, for its strength. Because the amount of pressure that this has to freaking deal with, it has to be tough. Really pleased with this. Pleasantly surprised, but also kind of like, yeah, I kind of knew it based on what stuff I've made out of it before. So, yeah. It is knife steel. Stay safe out there. Be well. And as always, Forge on.